Yes.
All right, cool. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2020 Global Architecture School Project Showcase. This event is designated to all graduating students in the study of landscape, architecture, urban planning, and environmental design. Later on, I'm sure there will be a publication for this event for everybody to share. And today we have invited students from 10 of the most renowned academic entities worldwide. Stay tuned, as you will see their exceptional insights on the built environment and some of the social challenges we face today, and also some back and forth with the best minds of our industry. So I'm going to briefly say it in Chinese for some audience that doesn't really speak English. 欢迎大家来到这个我们设计争霸的这个全球的活动，全球名校设计分享会。然后我们在这个活动里呢，邀请了就是10个设计名校，12组优秀的设计作品。然后回头会有一个出版物，然后会和大家分享整个的这个评图的过程。然后会有很多同学带着他们最新鲜的这个课程设计的成果，或者毕业设计的成果，然后与行业里的这个大咖评审，然后大家一起来交流。So a little bit about our host. ArchiDog is an educational resource platform for sharing innovative ideas and advances in architecture, interior, landscape architecture, and planning. It was founded in 2015 by a group of Chinese designers, including Sherry, it's our host. And right now it has offices in both China and America. 想要见到大家可能在看这个直播的，大家都比较支持国际化的这个设计实验室今天的主办方。And these are some of our sponsors and our friends in the publication world. There's no specific rankings in here. So for the 12 projects, we have divided up into 3 sessions, and the themes are urbanism, city life, and nature. And so everybody's watching, please register and vote for your favorite project on the ArchiDog platform. And there will be a lottery afterwards. It's also on their platform. And a little bit about us, I guess. I'm talking about a lot already. My name is Zihan. I'm today's host. And I'm a project architect for Perkins Eastman, registered architect in the United States. And let me introduce our guest critique today. First is Wes Michaels. Hey, Wes.
Hello.
So you are the Spackman Mosa Michaels group, and you are the founding member of that. And my information just tells me I've won multiple awards with ASLA and used to taught at LSU.
Correct. Yep.
Right. And then we have Zheng Tao, principal from Sasaki. Morning. And used to taught at the Rhode Island Institute, right? And all right. So, and we have Kuthida from Thailand. Morning. And Yosapon, right? Also from Thailand right now, all across the globe. All right. So the first of the 3 sessions today is urbanism. It's the study of cities, of congregation, of the centralization of human behavior. Find it a very interesting topic. It can be highly theoretical, can be extremely practical. It's been in the most canonical writings and also is sort of everywhere around us in our daily lives. And without further delay, our first group, Eric Fisher, and Eric has a background, a Bachelor of Architecture degree from ETH, and is currently at Harvard GSD, if I'm not misunderstanding. And as you can see, 2 major competition experiences right here. So Eric, you can take it away.
Great, thank you. So before we start, let me try this. So, 大家好，我是艾瑞克，我来自德国，现在在慕尼黑。我很高兴来参加这次活动。Okay, I think that's enough. Not sure if you could understand everything. Let's get to the project.
I'm kidding.
Okay, so I'll present my first semester project, which I did at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, or GSD. This is kind of the summary. I will first talk about the topic, which is about densification. Then I will move on about the specific site for my project, then continue talking about some kind of studies on the process, which I did throughout the semester, and then end with the final design. So it started out with a specific interest in densification, as it is like a very urgent and contemporary problem of our globalization. And it deals in the first place with a lot of rational problems, but the idea is to push it further and connecting it to like a more engaging project in the end. So as you can see, the project location is in Manhattan, and the project specifically is part of the expansion of the NYU University, and specifically about their design school, which is intended to be built on top of an existing building, which is this building, the Bob's Library, which is a building from the 70s, and which has this, let's say, very heavy appearance. Inside the building, there's a very large atrium, which will get important in a second. So when the project started, I was thinking the primary concern whenever building on top of an existing building is the structure. So if the structure of the building below is just not strong enough to hold up the building on top, this is just a huge issue. So I was just kidding at the or joking at the beginning of the semester, and I was thinking the only solution is if the building would be flying on top of the building. But then I was like going back to the ground and thinking about doing some experimentation with balancing structures and like shifting forces in order to enable a huge addition on top of an existing building. So now I will just go through some studies I did, and at the same time, like try to explain the concept which I used in the end. So I was doing some models which were dealing with balance and where the force is out of the center. And so let me quickly. So the main concept goes like this. Taking the existing building, the Bob's Library, which is essentially a cube, and I'm saying that I don't want to just place my structure right on top of the roof. I decided the ideal location is actually the atrium, which doesn't have any structure, so that if I place my structure there, there wouldn't be any structural conflict. But then in the second step, if I place my new building on top, there's the issue of, let's say, lateral forces, so wind forces or seismic issues. And so in the next step, I say I will use huge tension cables, maximize the tension forces, like wrapping around the two buildings in order to secure stability. So this is kind of the main premise of my project. Okay. Okay, and here you can see again some diagrams. So the compression structure placed inside the atrium, and next the tension cables wrapping around the entire construct, and then any other necessities like elevators or electricity are like part of this same systematic. And so this is the final model, section model. And I think the result, seeing the result, it is important that it started out with this pragmatic approach of seeing how the structure can work, that it's not any structural conflict. And as a result, the appearance is something kind of quite engaging, which kind of raises this gravitational ambiguity. And you're not sure if the top building is trying to pull out the lower building or if the lower building needs to push down the upper building. So there's like something engaging about this. So some notes about the program inside. So it's a design school, and like every program is packaged in these little boxes, and the space in between is like an open space. And of course, also the big roof terrace on the existing building is like all open to the public. The egress goes like this over the roof and then down. Elevators mainly also at the side of the building, some going down the atrium. Here the plan on the right, you can see the ground floor, and that the density of the tension cables is decreasing when going up the stories. And here the public, here the exhibition, coffee. Okay, and those are the final images, starting with a smaller scale. So the view inside the building, where the viewer is like in between the two heavy program blocks wrapped by this very light and blurry facade. And then on the next scale, in between the new and the old building, where this structural entanglement is at its very peak. And the last image in between kind of the city and the new building. And maybe just some summarizing words. So the initial idea was really to link this idea of pragmatism with surrealism on the other hand. So pragmatism in the sense of addressing densification and really thinking about the structure, but then surrealism, how you will articulate the structure in order to create this engaging appearance in the end. And I think another issue is that for me, it was very important talking about densification, really looking at the context and not blending it out, so that to create something where the new building and the old building is in a very strong dialogue, although their appearance might be quite different. And so it results in this kind of hybrid typology. Yes, and that's it. And so also here, like for maybe students who have any further questions about the project or studying at the GSD, you can contact me here on this webpage. You find like, I don't know, email, LinkedIn, Instagram, and this is also QR code for my WeChat. Okay, thank you.
So we can ask question, right?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, can I ask a question? I go first, Steve, because I know maybe more questions later on. Is that this idea only apply for this site? Or is that any like some more idea that you can apply to other place, which is maybe have more densities? Because when you play with densifications, like if I say like Hong Kong, which is very dense, so how this idea can apply to that kind of criteria?
So I generally think it would be, the idea is that it could multiply, that it could kind of spread. But I think it's also important to always, like, if it would spread to different cities, you would have to probably take a closer look at the specificities of one city. So this kind of concept works for the courtyard typology with this atrium. And for instance, I think the project could also exist in another city, but it probably needs some adaptation so that it applies to different typologies, for instance. but it's definitely be thought that it's not just this one building, but it could be reapplied.
Yeah, because I think it could be nice if it's become like a series of typology. It depends on what kind of existing buildings in different criteria. So this is become like a one type of these criteria. And maybe your study can be more further to next step that how many types it could be solved in the term of like densification in each countries. And that this has become like a big global issues. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, great. Thank you.
I probably need to translate here to cut in. Sorry. 第一位嘉宾跟这个 Eric 讨论的问题是说，它这个概念是不是可以用在更多的地方，比如说像香港啊，或者是曼谷等等这些高密度的城市。所以呢 Kutida 就是我们的这个第一位评委呢，他给的建议是说，可以让 Eric 再做一些研究，可以去研究不同的 typology。那么不同的 typology 的话，有可能是可以去适用于不一样的城市或者不一样的场地，这个是一个就是目前正在讨论的一个 topic. Okay, other jury, you want to add anything?
Yeah, just to add on to let Kuntida comments. I was just wondering because you're talking much about dialogue and engagement. So I'm more interested what kind of the situation that require this dialogue, because I think the result or the impact of this engagement is much more interesting. Might be more interesting than that we need to plan it before we having this two building come together. Have you ever think about that? What kind of the relationship that you may think that this could apply to create the society or the result that you're expecting from the densification? Because right now you focus pretty much on the structure, but it's not the result of that dialogue.
Yes, right. So it's true that like the main concentration was on the structure. But I mean, I think it's definitely, it would be great if it's going more into like the societal impact. And I mean, I was thinking about it to some extent, so that, for instance, like now, since the building are like creating this gap in between, and the new building is not just sitting right on top of the roof, it's creating this kind of this park on top of the existing building, which is creating like a new space for the inhabitants. And like in similar ways, I was trying to articulate the inside program of the new building so that there's always a lot of open space. So it's mainly about this, this structural act of kind of lifting that it's offering like more open space to some extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can apply to the other area and also the open up for various programs that each district or each part of the city required, right? I think to further think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, to follow up on that, I mean, I think it'd be interesting, Eric, you've visited the site, I'm sure. There's a very famous park right next to this building, Washington Square Park.
Right.
It's a small park, a small urban park. It has a long history of being a very well-used and an important park in New York. And I think I would have liked to have seen some, indication of how this building, thinks about its relationship to that park. And maybe even, and you may have thought of this, and so I'll ask this as a question, what was the relationship between the building, your proposal, and the park, but also the broader idea of campus, an urban campus, and what does this mean? It's a very specific type of building. It's a university building. So, New York University is a very, very unique typology of university itself. So how do you start to think about the context and how it plays out, not only with the building itself, but sort of the broader campus and, sort of civic space, that those types of issues that are really sort of impacting most of the buildings that are going to get built in New York, today.
So maybe first to the second aspect, like when we did this project in our class, we were talking about what does it mean like to expand a campus and so on. And I guess like my take was, because I mean the trend is for many campuses that they will expand outside of the city, so that kind of the students are split. Some are in the city center, some are outside, and so on. And so the take was, I guess, that you try to make it as compact as possible to keep the students in the city center together. And that's why in the end, the addition happens like on top of an existing building instead of like pushing it outside of the city, I guess. This was one thought. And then for the second topic of the park, now, I mean, the project is already like almost a year old. I do think the relation to the park, it could have been more than what it is right now, because currently the project is really isolated to the new building and the building below. But I think there could have been, I guess, more engagement or thinking more about the context right around the building.
I mean, I think one of the strong pieces that the building sits, just south of the park. So you're going to get the shadows and things like this on the park from this new addition. And I think in some ways the lightness of this, and it's sort of hovering, and and the way the structure is, potentially lets a lot of light into that area, could be something to explore. And maybe its relationship to the park and the light that sort of you want to have come into the park, so it's not overshadowed by the buildings, could be a part of the exploration as well. But I mean, overall, I think very engaging and thoughtful proposal. Overall, I commend you on your work.
Okay, well, yeah, I probably need to translate right now because before I forgot everything. 他们第二个主要在讨论的话题是说这个关系，就是你们刚刚听到很多这个 relationship 这个词。然后呢Young Song Pro 呢，他这个我发的不是特别准啊 ，sorry。就是第二位这个评审呢，他问的问题是说，因为这个建筑它是floating， 就是浮在那个已有的 building 上面的楼的上面的，所以他就在问说这个关系是不是你在用 structure 来解决它，也就是说这个结构是不是能够解决这个关系的唯一方式？那是不是还有一些其他的方式可以去解决？那这个 Eric 他有在讲，就是说他在研究的过程中，就是发现说，当这个一个楼漂浮在另外一个已有的建筑上面的时候，它会产生一个类似于平台一样的公共空间。那么在这个公共空间的话，它其实可以提供给就是公众，然后呢变成一个比较开放式的一个更加去吸引人去参与的一个空间。那它这种其实就是一个新的一个关系产生了。然后后面呢 Wes 就是我们第三位嘉宾呢有在问另外一个问题，就是说因为这个是在纽约的一个场地，那旁边呢是有一个比较重要的一个公园，我刚没有太听清，好像叫一个 Washington Park。然后这个公园呢，它是不是新的这个楼在这个空间里面会对这个公园产生一个影响？比如说像这个你在上面浮的这样的一个东西的话，它会产生阴影，那也会影响到这个已有的城市公共空间那个 Eric 也会去就是回答一下这个评委的问题。然后他有两说这个项目呢其实发生在1年以前，所以在那个时候呢他可能的想法更多的是一个比较就是强势的楼浮在另外一栋楼上面，但如果现在他回过去考虑的话，他可能会更多的去考虑这个对于城市周边的公共空地的一个关系和影响。Okay, I'm kind of like summarize what you guys just talk about.
I mean myself. Yeah, first, I want to commend Eric, on such pretty brave, endeavor. I think, in graduate school, that's when you experiment, right? Try radical approaches. I really like it. It's a clever, but I do have a few comments and questions. If we have enough time. First one is access, because the large volume of floating, ideally floating on the existing building. What's the main access? And it might be deceiving. The model right now we're looking at, it feels almost like, it's levitating, right? But actually the structural core, the elevator core will be quite present. Probably eventually in reality, if we can realize this, it might look like a lollipop sticking on top of another building. And another one is related to the structure, that the detention cables are wrapping around the existing facade, right? And then actually at the top perimeter or edge of the facade, the cables are pivoted, pivoted against the facade. So probably it's not the tension, and not the cables that are holding the building. Probably it's that point hitting the existing facade, right? I think that's more practical question. Is the existing structure strong enough to hold the cable? Most of the strength of the cable is not from the ground. Actually, it's from both from the ground and from that pivotal point. And the third one is I like the concept of densification. It was more of a discussion, I think. Instead of adding it to existing building, actually, I see more of a potential that this could be in an open space, that you feel like you're still leaving enough permeable space at the ground as a landscape gesture, but the densification happens in the air. So you created the habitat or sediments up in the air, but leave the ground more permeable for pedestrians. I think that's very interesting, and the cables won't be that disturbing anymore. In the shadow, let's say, imagine if this is in the middle of the Washington Park, and the cables could be interesting as more of a sculptural elements, casting interesting shadows, evolving shadows to different time of the day. Mm. And related to that, I do like the gap between the existing building and the addition. Actually, that gap, that roof becomes the new landscape, becomes the new plaza. I think that's the idea that I really enjoy. Whether the elevator core will be too substantial or not, the roof becomes a new plaza.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said probably. And if I remember back to the semester, we had like consultants for like the structure and for the fire egress and so on. And there was like a lot of heated discussion around all of these topics. So yeah, I agree with all you said.
Very interesting.
I would like to add one more thing, but maybe let's Shirley translate first. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I from Tao comment, actually it's also remind me when beginning when I listened from your presentation, it started to make me feel very exciting. But when you start to click on the plan, the drawings on the plan of the building, it made me curious about is that should be like very conventional, typical plan tower, like what you did in this. Because when from your idea, what I felt is more like about how we adapt. It's like adaptive buildings, adaptive tower to these densification situations. But when I look on the plan drawings, it doesn't have that kind of sense. It's just like a normal, typical, like now that many office buildings, they try to do those kind of like flexible plan, open plans. I'm not sure if you have thought anything about those idea on the plan drawing and the space inside. Maybe if you have some idea more, then you can talk more further on that.
Yeah, this was, I mean, this is something I thought about quite often, and I was always struggling because on one hand, I thought the entire concept is already kind of radical, and then based on this kind of radicality of the structure, I wanted to make the plan more kind of ordinary and not too extreme. I tried some things, but I was never like really satisfied. But I think it might be worth doing some more exploration if you could turn the plan into something that it is more connected to the entire concept.
Yeah.
And maybe like I agree that the plan is quite ordinary, but I was thinking a lot about the appearance from the outside, and so the articulation of these kind of program blocks, which you can now see in the background, are like more kind of dark and heavy, And the contrast with this kind of more light facade was kind of trying to underline this gravitational ambiguity, thinking like, is it now a light building or a heavy building, and so on. So this was like, yeah, just some thoughts.
Let me make sure I understand right. You guys are talking about the new building, the plans of the new building, right? Like, okay, got it. 那我来先翻译一下他们刚刚在讨论的这个话题，就是说，对于新建的这栋楼，它的这个平面为什么是这样比较规则的形状？就是因为当然它底下的这个 existing， 也就是原来的这栋楼是一个比较规则的形状，那么它上面是不是可能可以去尝试着有一些变化？就他们刚刚是在讨论这个问题。然后第二个的话，就是我们前面的张涛呢提的一个问题。这个问题包含4个部分啊，我就是刚刚这个记得比较清楚。那第一个是关于可达性，就是说这栋楼它的这个比如说电梯啊或者是楼梯啊等等，就是它怎么样能够从地面层，然后原有的建筑可以顺利的到达它的这个新加的这栋楼上面。那么它的这个可达性其实是考虑的比较弱的，因为如果你看的这个楼的话，它现在其实中间是完全 float， 就是漂浮的。所以这个问题可能是他需要去考虑的。那么第二点的话，还是关于结构。那这个结构的话，它其实是用了这种，就是所谓的cable， 就是钢索。那么这个结构的话，涛给了他一个建议，就是说，其实这个结构本身它不一定只是一个受力的作用，它其实还可以变成一个所谓的。就是一个雕塑物，那它可能跟城市的关系就会在力学之外有一个不一样的体现。那另外一个是说，就是关于这个gap， 就是刚刚他们也经常提到的，说2栋楼一旦漂浮之后呢，它会形成一个新的一个平台空间。那么这个屋顶平台的这个 gap， 那会成为就是城市的一个新的广场。那这个想法其实是就是对于他这个项目来讲更有意义，或者说更有意思的地方。大概我是就是记到了这比较重要的几个问题。然后Eric 刚刚的回答也是说，就是他觉得涛的这个就是 comments， 也就是他的评论是他比较可以就是比较喜欢的，然后当时应该是有一些其他的就是其他的考量会选择现在这样的一个结果。OK， that's it。Do you guys want to add anything else? Or we can move to the next.
Yeah. Thank you for
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Very exciting work for Saturday morning. I liked it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to the second project. Our second group, 2 ladies are from UPenn, Hu Li and Fang Wenjing, with some special insights on the side that they picked on the city of Chicago. So you guys take it away.
Right. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Thanks, Eric. I really love your project. That's a wonderful presentation. Hello, everyone. This is Di and Wenjing, and we are currently enrolled in 2 years MLA program in University of Pennsylvania. Welcome to our complete neighborhood. This is the work of our 602 urban design studio for this semester. Oops, sorry, it's not the right order. So the purpose of this studio is to reactive the parks and boulevard system in Chicago and its surrounding urban realm by the approach of urban design. For those of you who are not familiar with it, parks and boulevard system is an urban infrastructure consists of large parks that connected by a network of scenic mobility corridor. And right now it is sort of underutilized and becomes an urban divider. And we try to provide new ideas to reintegrate the systems into the city of Chicago back again. In the largest scale, the whole systems is divided into 6 segments. and the one we pick is the segment of complete. So the idea behind is that we want to provide what is missing inside those neighborhoods, such as public facilities, and the new completeness will finally regenerate health neighborhood. For the more process location, our site is located at the southwest corner of this parks and boulevard systems, and within the significant transportation gap of Chicago's rail rapid transit systems, and only have one station here. And a closer look, you will see that our segment is inside the residential area with only 2 public transit stations, and the parks boulevard systems goes in the middle. And we also have 2 parks and several neighborhoods, including New City, which is here. The famous Union Stockyard used to be in our segment. And this is a multiracial group neighborhood. The largest group is the African American and Spanish. And as you can see in the diagrams down below, they are represented by the color of blue and green. And you can see this group is growing as time goes by. And because we are in the residential area, the building typologies here are mainly schools, churches, and different types of house. And we also have 2 job centers. They are connected by this Inglewood Trails. The trail is the elevated abandoned railway, which is 15 feet high and 70 feet wide at the top. And currently, the abandoned railway is covered by heavy vegetation, and the local people has already used it as an open space. And that's why we think it could be future new landmarks, which will bring new identity to this decaying neighborhood. Another landmarks and interesting programs is this urban farming programs, which aims to grow for the local and also provide a place for the residents together. And we also have some issues as a result of decaying manufacturing industry, such as lacking of public facilities and amenities, lack of job opportunities, high vacancy, and depopulation. And we try to address those issues by taking a look at the public facilities. And after the research, we give this complete list of facilities that a neighborhood needs in order to function well. As you can see, we give them several types: the educational, cultural, and health, and also divide them into 3 different levels: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Each level have its respective service area. And these are the programs that's specifically missing in our site, such as the educational and health programs, which we will give detailed examples later on. And our design project begins with the mobility systems. As you can see, for this neighborhood, we give this 4 different types of transportation systems. The BRT, C-Link, which is the fast bike lane, and the pedestrian-only street, and the shared street. Each system have different service area, which are ranging from Chicago metropolitan region to the local street. And also they serve different audience ranging from the tourists to the local residents. I particularly want to say that BRT in our segment fill in the transportation system gap and also give a new lateral structure to connect each existing subway system. And for the C-Lane, which is the fast bike lane, because we did road diet, which is one of the variables we were assigned at the beginning of the semester, we redesigned the road section and give this new space, which are the green colors, as the new bike lane. As you can see, it follows the parks boulevard systems in the middle. So it will bring people more opportunity to enjoy and share this space. And this is how we build up the mobility systems layer by layer. As you can see, the BRT, the fast bike lane, and the pedestrian street, and the shared street. And for the framework, we have 3 levels of structures for the framework: the primary, secondary, tertiary, and each have different service areas and different programs. So the red axis in the middle is the primary structure. It connects the existing landmarks, which are the Inglewood Trails, and it is perpendicular to the Parks Boulevard system because the PBS system in our segment is act like a divider. So we try to give a perpendicular structure and to connect each side of it. And the reason why it meanders in the site is because it's trying to connect the existing public facilities. As you can see, they are the black color in the white lines. And the programs, the future new programs on the main access will be public, and the service area is 1 mile. And the secondary structure is the orange lines hanging on the main access. And the investment could be both public and private. For example, there could be some smaller commercial centers, and the service area is half mile. And the tertiary structure is spread inside the neighborhood. We don't want people to feel that we forget the rest of the neighbors, so we give this tertiary structures. And the hatch area are the, the influential zone. That's if people wanna invest inside those areas, they could get some forgivable loans or the lower price if they want to purchase a property. And we will give, for examples, they are the major programs that of the primary access. The first one is the Vocational Training Center. It's at the intersection of this Inglewood Trail and our primary access. It could be the new future opening to the other neighborhoods. So that's why we want to explain in detail of this focus area. So this is the overall look. As you can see, the diagonal gray platform in the middle is the Inglewood Trail, and the blue buildings is the Vocational Training Center, which acts like the anchoring programs of it. And the orange lines is the primary access that I keep talking about. And this access connects this focus area to the larger framework. And this is the original map. This is our new design. We get this design by several steps and principles. The first, we keep some existing trees in the site. And the second, we keep the part of the abandoned railways and give 3 types of exercise circuits. As you can see, the green line is the ceiling, which is fast bike lane, connect the Inglewood Trail to the BRT station. And the red line is the running way, and the orange line is the walking way. We give this exercise circuits idea is because the trail has already been proposed by the local government as the exercise programs. So we sort of want to continue use this idea and refine it. And the next principle is the circuits should connect to the new buildings here and the existing community park here. And finally, they should all be zigzag based on the different exercise speed. And for the outdoor programs, because this area is focused on education and exercise, so you can see some smaller programs are, for example, the fitness equipment or the study tables. In the section, you could see how people could access to the top of this trail by the ramp and the outdoor elevator. And in the final rendering, you could see how people could come together to do different exercises in this space. And also we want different racial group could enjoy this space equally. And the second focus area is about health and protection. The reason why this block is all about food and health is we have this biggest existing urban farmland here, and that's why we want to continue to keep it as a new feature, as the existing feature, and give many, as you can see here, the blue boxes are the greenhouses, because Chicago in winter is very cold. We want them can continue growing food in the winter, so that's why we provide these facilities. And the main accesses goes in the middle, meanders to connect the entrance of different buildings. And we also have some public programs that spread along it. In the existing map, you could see that here is the largest farmland in our whole site. And we also have some logic for the plan. I won't explain them in detail. I want to save some time for my partner. But compared to the last focus area, because this block is focused on food and protection, we have some different outdoor programs, such as the market that sells the local products of this farmland, and some benches and equipment fitness for the patient to do exercise in the hospital down below. And in the section, you could see this is the small market that people could come together to buy some local product. And if they want to do some exercises, they could find the tennis table here. And also we want people come together equally to enjoy this place. And the next focus area is the transit hub. It's at the intersection of the parks boulevard systems and our primary structure.
Yes. And also this part is at the corner of the Sherman Park, which is the largest park in our segment. Next one. Here is a BRT station, so this block can be a transit center to help people gathering and then spreading into other parts of our community. This transit hub is a great chance to present our concept of complete neighborhood to all the passengers. Also, this hub can provide public space like plazas and gardens for the local residents. Next. The map shows the existing avenue and the boulevard. Next. We have Sherman Park, and based on our whole mobility system, the C lane and BRT routes run on the south branch of the avenue, and here is a BRT station. Next one. After road diet, the green space can occupy part of the avenue, connecting this transit hub to the Sherman Park. The main pedestrian axis runs through this whole part, and a food processing factory and a cafe building are inserted after overall considerations. Next. By refining the circulation and planting, we build up new accesses and gathering centers. Next. New programs of different themes are inserted for both outside people and the nearby residents. Next. A final plan shows detailed installations and vegetations. Next. All these elements try to enrich people's experience. Next. Yeah, this view shows that the passengers are transported from the BRT station to the transit hub, then into our complete neighborhood. Sorry, there is some delay in my computer, so I cannot really say what the picture is. Yeah. Next page, please. So far, we have finished all the 3 primary blocks, and we come to the part of our primary axis, the pedestrian Orleans Street. We concentrate on the segment in between the Inglewood Trail and the health center. Yeah, the axon. Apart from the new vocational training center, other existing buildings along this street are residential houses. So we still keep this part as daily life oriented, and we try to create tiny gardens in front of each existing house and insert new buildings in vacant lots. Next. The programs are inserted based on the needs of the nearby neighborhoods and are designed to support social life, so the local residents can also participate in the design process. Next page. There are many vacant lots in the existing map. And next one. Green-colored buildings are newly inserted buildings. Most of them are social housings, and the larger footprint can be a sports center. Next. The trail here is simpler than the ones in the primary blocks because the trail in axis is for connecting. Also because the programs here are mainly designed for a smaller scale of audience, which means the nearby residents. Next. These 2 sections try to show how we use different vegetations to help creating different space. In the upper section, we use shrubs and trees to block sight, creating semi-private gardens. So we can see a gradient from public to private. The lower section shows a dog park, which is an open space. Next. This is a view of the street before our design. And next one. This can be how it looks like after being transformed and how people have fun here. Next. Our concept to complete neighborhood is the idea to ensure the presence of basic public facilities, which are necessary for daily life, especially including equitable access to job opportunities. By renovating industrial infrastructures and introducing public realm and mobility system, we can finally provide new identity and a new bright future to the nearby community. That's why we want to create a complete neighborhood here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can start. Yeah, very interesting work, and I like the scale. I mean, this is kind of the urban intervention that our firm often take on. And a quick question is that, I mean, because there was a lot of material, without knowing the background, it was a little bit difficult for me to follow. And just a suggestion for, so many diagrams, it would be good to have a key map, constant key map on the right, to just, help orient the audience. I was curious, the view, you have a few renderings on top of the elevated walk or trail system, right? What is the view from a neighborhood, from urban fabric? If you look, from your house, what is this, renovated, recreation system? So I'm just curious the look of that. And the second of all is that one of your critique of the neighborhood or analysis was that the population is shrinking, right? So I assumed that there are vacant lots. I was really waiting to see a holistic analysis of the vacant lots, the distribution of vacant lots in this neighborhood. And that would create a lot of opportunities. Right now you have a really defined connection north and south and folks around the existing park. I was just hoping, there's almost like emerging pattern or opportunity out of these vacant lots that can really create a multi-directional connection towards the new center of this neighborhood. For example, your community farm or garden or market, how they're taking advantage of these vacant lots. So that's my major question. And where is the community farm on the map?
Oh, you're looking for the specifically location. There are really a lot
about the scale and the location.
Where, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just curious about the scale of the farm and the location. How it's playing, in this full context.
Okay. The urban farmland is almost all the urban farmland are inside those vacant lots. Currently, they are managed by the local people because they want to reuse the vacant lots, because the vacant lots is really enormous in our segment. I try to answer your second questions. The reason why we did a project like this is because you can see here we divide the whole segment, whole system into 6 segments, and we pick one. And it's sort of like we were assigned this part, and there are other groups that they did other segments, and we want to have our own feature and make something different compared to them. And that's why we decided to create this like a self-sufficient community, and to try to provide the opportunity that people can utilize this vacant lot for themselves, grow for themselves, and have some new activity for themselves, and which is not creating new connections to other segments.
Okay.
Can I add on to this point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, since I'm not familiar with the site, but it's quite hard to believe that by doing this linear park is going to revitalize the whole district and attract more people to come or stay longer or be sustained like what you mentioned, right? Because I think it seems that your design focus pretty much on the park design, but it's not on the system design of the whole area. Because I think the starting point of your project is quite interesting, of how we're gonna make the people live in this area and can do more business. So I think there might be other elements or program to add on in your projects to complete your mission, right? Besides focusing on this linear park, because and also I'm also questioning whether if this is going to be like a farmland, this linear park is need to function to support those farmland to make it more productivity, and including other facilities to make sure that this can support not only the neighborhood but probably part of the city. I think because if the government or somebody going to invest in this revitalization, we need to make sure that the impact in investing this need to be convincing, right? But because I think the goal that you set and the strategy that you do is probably doesn't really match in terms of what there's something missing in the program or facilities that to create the self-sufficient community. And also I'm also asking whether is there any possibility that this like could generate or create beside farmland. So I think this is two comments. Yeah.
And to follow up on that, like just to give us more of a sense of scale on this map, what's sort of I'm assuming the job center that you kind of dashed in here is the area that where people is where the jobs are or where people's occupation. Sort of what's the distance from your central axis going 2 ways across?
What's the distance of what?
Sort of just give us a sense of scale on your map. It's showing on the screen right now.
So the distance from the end of J Street to the Main Street is about a quarter mile.
What I meant is that, in order for the central green axis to work, right? People can have fun. People kind of adding on to what Yosepon was saying. People can have fun. People can stay in. There's a lot of green. There's a lot of urban farming, and it's sort of you're adding a lot of density or majority, like a leisure side of the density on a residential neighborhood. Like what's driving them to stay here is not just that, right? It's more where the jobs are. What's the connectivity to the rest part, the other parts of the city?
Do you want to talk about that? Or because we can see,
Yeah, I'm asking if you have thought about that connectivity to the rest part of the city.
To me, the Inglewood Trail is where the government are sure to invest in and want to renovation this part. And on the north side of the Inglewood Trail is almost a new city center. So that means the Inglewood Trail can connect to the city life, but over the segment can divided or separated from the whole city infrastructures. So we believe our orange axis that try to connect this to Inglewood Trail have the possibility to invite people from the Inglewood Trail in and let them to stay in our neighborhood. And also it's not only about the farmland. It's like every block has its own identity. And we try to use this axis to connect all this identity. And all this identity can support the residents who are living here. And also at the two ends and at the center, the two ends are the vocational training center, and at the center is a transit hub we have shown before. These three blocks are faced to larger audience, which means the city from the people from all from the city range.
Well, I'll jump in for a second. I mean, I think that there's some really strong moves here in terms of how you thought about this strategically. And you're operating within the public realm. And in cities like Chicago, and we've done work like this in Detroit, a lot of what can be done in neighborhoods operates within streets, open space, areas that are controlled by the municipal government or the state, state highways and things like this. And so there's very strategic plans that have to be really sort of traced into these neighborhoods to make these connections, to make an impact in a way, especially in a neighborhood like this, where yes, there's some vacancy that may be owned by a land bank, but it's dispersed. It's not contiguous. There's an impact that can be made, and I agree with Talia with your comment on, what are the sort of, maybe not only identifying vacancy, but identifying which of those parcels are potentially owned by a land bank or owned by the municipality, where there's an ability for this type of, work on those parcels. But a lot of what happens in this type of planning, which is an insertion back into an existing system in cities like Chicago, is happening in the public right away. It's happening in streets, it's happening in parks, potentially in old abandoned school sites, types of parcels that are, controlled in some way by the municipal government. And the development pieces are more suggestions, right? They're suggestions to developers to say, we think a type of development like this would be supported by the community. We'd like to see you come invest in these types of hubs. And I think you've, shown some really compelling ideas. I think the scale and the, that you've got 3 or 4 of these hubs, I think that there needs to be, I think if you went back and looked at this again, you might start to think about it strategically in a way to say, like, what is prioritize these interventions? What is the highest priority here? If we had an X number of dollars to do an intervention from both the public realm side and promoting potentially a private development, public-private partnership development plan in one of these nodes, where would we start? And I think the framework is very comprehensive. I think you would add a level of nuance and rigor to it by starting to think strategically about it. And you may have, and it's a very short presentation, but I think overall, I commend you for that very strategic, sort of nuanced, tactical approach to this. The one thing I'm missing is that original Parks and Boulevard system. Where is that in your plan? Is that the green piece?
Yeah,
that,
in the middle here.
I just sort of wonder, that seems to be the key linkage that sort of expands beyond the neighborhood. And I didn't see a lot of, and I may have missed it, but in this drawing at the very least, we don't see a lot of focus on that key linkage there. And I think that's, to take a sidestep, you did a very good job of thinking about the scales, like some of it's neighborhood scale, some of it's, individual block scale, but that's the scale that really connects this to the city. And I think that there could be some more focus on the identity of that. You talked about Kevin Lynch a little bit, the legibility of this as it reads throughout the entire city. How do you start to make that a legible piece that connects this into a larger system, sort of at the city scale? And then how does that tie into this? But, I think there's a lot of very strong thought in this project.
Yeah, I have think about it before. Something like, should we renovate the Parks Boulevard systems alone, or should we provide a new connection to it? Which is second one is because we want to sort of like give a new start point to this neighborhood to let people notice that we have a new structure that's perpendicular to the existing Parks Boulevard systems. We have something, we have a new connection, we have new programs that happening in the different areas. So that's why I think we could attract more audience to the new structure compared to the old existing renovation of the Parks Boulevard systems. And I know the new primary access look a little linear, but I want to say, yes, again, it is only a start point. As you could notice that there are many black dots inside those diagrams. They are the new buildings or the new programs we inserted along this structure. And we think they will have more and more influential zone or areas around it.
I think the main problem of your this presentation is about everything is very equal. Like you design each part is quite have some like it's different design, it's different programs, different function, but there is lack of the highlight of which part that is could be the highlight that you need to emphasize more, or maybe make people feel this is like a more gathering part area on that in each zone. So it's like a movie when you watch the movie. Now this movie is like, okay, just stable and then this finished, you know. But if you have some like gimmick or something that highlight on this design, I think it will be a very good proposals, which is actually what I see. All the thing is look very like practical. Like, okay, like urban design or landscape architect, they will do like kind of this, same things. But you as a student, as this is if a final year project or thesis, I think what we would like to see more is more about how the dream from students can make some innovation on this kind of very practical data, how the concept can change to these practical thinkings. I think this is what the like people who are working on this kind of work, they would like to know more about this on the students' work. Which is,
are you thinking something like we might need to focus on one point of the project? You mean the design stage or the analysis or the narrative?
Well, analysis is very perfect. I think the analysis part is very like, even me, I never been to that part. I can understand. I never been to your site, but I can understand all from your analysis. But when you started to jump to the designs, I felt it seemed like what I say is quite like equal from all of your design in each part. And I cannot get which one is I would like to walk to there, you know. It's like, okay, I need to walk to each part, but I don't have the pace, so I don't have the destination that I really want to go there when I go to that neighborhood. This is, I think it could be better if there are some like more hierarchy on this space, this area, and then we can know which one is main important, which one is lack of important, but actually they are still important. Kind of like that. So then it will have more rhythm for people when people walk along those areas, and it will make the pedestrian feel very exciting to go there. This is what I think.
Because for the purpose to serve the local residents equally, we make every focus area equal important. That's the major issue, I think.
It's like, if I may paraphrase, it's more like a sort of hierarchy of, say, you prioritize what is the system that moves the most population around, what brings everybody back to this neighborhood, and you address the transition side of this conversation first, and you gradually, like what Wes was saying, prioritize, and you gradually, from an urban mass transit point of view, gradually step by step into the neighborhood park, the front yards or the street sections of the individual residential neighborhoods. So there's like a step by step from the trains to your front yard.
Like a time range, right? Maybe the first step is 10 years, the second step is 20 years. Something like that.
Yeah, that could be, because you can't build this whole thing at once.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let me just quick summarize it because I think we have very limited time. 因为这个项目我其实以前是有跟着做过，但不是这个 site， 就是我比较了解宾大601或者602的这种设计。其实它这个项目是一个比较就是传统意义上的城市设计，然后呢，他们是 全组，就是应该有5-6个组，然后做了一整个就是线。那这一组呢，他们其实是选择其中的一段，那一段呢叫 complete street， 就是一个完整街区或者叫全面街区，然后这样的一个概念。然后他们在这个概念里面，然后再去细化这个街区里面的一些东西。但是刚刚在最后讨论的这一块，就是非常激烈的讨论的时候，其实嘉宾也好，或者是就是学生的观点，其实都集中在这个线性的这样的一个空间到底应该怎么样去设计。就目前大家在图片上看到的这个，其实是一个比较就是同样宽度，然后有一种就是 zigzag， 就是这个应该叫扭曲的这样的一个空间，其实是为了连接不一样的这个节点。但是我觉得它在表达上面可能就是没有特别清晰的把它的这个旁边衍生出来的公共空间也包容在里面，所以看起来呢就比较均质。那 Kutida 刚刚的一个 comment 就是说，这个均质的空间让你觉得就像看电影一样，它这个没有太多的起伏和变化，没有那种所谓的节奏感，然后突然就结束了。就是这个问题可能导致了就是这个方案在整个逻辑上非常清晰，然后分析也非常好，但是可能没有让人觉得哇哦一下的那个 moments， 那个精彩的点。我觉得这个可能是就是你们在表达上面，或者说你们在用力过于平均的这个结果。然后刚刚也有一些嘉宾的建议，就是说如果你跳出这个比较practical， 就是比较实践的这个城市设计师的这样的一个角度，然后以一个学生的比较就是 critical thinking， 就是这种比较批判性的思维的方式来看待这个设计的话，也许你可以再做得更夸张一点。也就是说，也许像刚刚那个子涵讲到的，就是你可以有一个不同的层级，从这个就是 station 下来之后，这个车站下来之后，它可以是一个渐变的一个过程，然后它的空间也可能是跟着变化的，而不是说一定是一个均质的线性的这样的一个问题。然后前面的话其实还讨论了几个比较有意思的问题，就是张涛他刚刚有提到说这里的这个你们用到的一些空间其实是这个芝加哥它的一个所谓的废弃的空间，就是 vacant 空地。那么这些空地它其实是有一个系统的，所以在刚刚你们也有给大家展示过就是这个空地的系统。那你们现在其实就是把其中的一些空地，然后用这个新的这个所谓你们设计的平行于旧的这种公园线性空间的一个新的空间来把它串联起来。那么你们在串联的过程中其实有提供了一个新的功能，那这个功能其实是生产和这个使用就是城市农业这样的一个概念。那刚刚也有嘉宾提到，就是说你的这个城市农业是不是一个足以支持大家local 就是当地的这个社区或者说城市整个的这个群众来使用这块地。我觉得这个可能也是可以去探讨的，也就是说除了这个城市农业之外，是不是有更多的功能可以去吸引更多的人。还有一个刚刚你们有聊到的就是一个 hierarchy， 就是一个层级问题，是吗？就是关于在设计的过程中，如果你的这个所有的想法都比较的平均的话，那我们怎么样去选择一个最重要的点，可以作为比如说城市去投资，或者说我们想去改变这块地的时候去选择它来作为一个所谓的催化剂的一个试验点。就是在这个方面的话可能也是要去讨论的。然后刚刚也讨论了另外一个点，就是说关于这个新的park 系统，就为什么不选择在原有的基础上去所谓的修改或者是修复。那刚刚两位同学也提到，就是说他们希望是一个全新的系统，然后独立在这个旧的系统之外，然后它可以去承载新的功能和吸引更多的人。大概我们就是在讨论这些问题，然后稍后我们就是再去给大家回放的时候，可以再把大家今天的讨论就是详细的翻译给大家。Okay, let's start the next one.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, guys. And our third presentation is from Kampachorn from Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand. And I was late early on. Sherry gave me this introduction, and there's a most impressive list of design awards, student design awards, that I'm not going to justify the next 10 minutes to list them all, so my apologies. Take it away.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. No one can deny that eating good food, especially with family and friends, is one of the pleasure of our life. We all know that people who eat healthy, balanced diet are likely to have good energy and fewer infection. But right now, a variety of food in the market and complexity of processes made at distance from the origin of food. This is a big issue now. How can we reconnect to food, and what will be the thing that brings back the quality of time of having meal together in a family? 大家好，我叫 Pum. Hi everyone, my name is Pum Kanchathorn Khajornrit, and today I'm going to first introduce you to the complexity of Thai default menu, then going back time to the history of food production, demonstrating you what will happen in the next few years, and finally welcoming all of you to Herbivore, the urban habitat for producer and one-stop farming business in the city. So first of all, you might be familiar with the word carbon footprint, but do you know how much carbon footprint you create in each year? This is the estimated total amount of carbon footprint, which is equal to the weight of 8 elephants. The three main human behavior that are related to this emission are transportation, food, and consumption of the product. By looking at this infographic again and again, it seems like the food topic become my most important factor that affect everywhere in my routine. We can reduce the quantity of traveling and buying new product, but we cannot stop eating. The food itself has a complex network. One meal is combined with many elements and production. It has the potential to become the center that link other circumstances together. To understand carbon footprint more, I study on one menu. The chosen plate is khao phat kapao. Thai people call khao phat kapao a default dish. When we don't know what to eat, we will order this menu. It is fast and easy. I believe you would agree with me by looking at this picture. However, you might change your mind after you see the next slide. Here is the real khao phat background. Eating one plate of khao phat kapao requires a complex system of production and processing. Khao phat kapao only contains 9 ingredients, but those 9 ingredients has its own complex production. For example, rice, farmer has to plant them for about 160 days, and then it will pass several methods such as cleaning and extracting seed, checking quality and packaging. Then the ingredient will transport to either supermarket, local market, or your home. This process also requires extra energy for moving from one place to another. To cook khao phat kapao is simple, but some process also require energy for heat and also extra utensils such as pan and cooker. The last process is eating and cleaning. I can think of many ways, and each has also different method and step. Eating at home, eating at the restaurant, or delivery food. Here is the overall process of eating khao phat kapao. Let's imagine how much menu are there in the world and how complexity this network would be. I did some more research about food carbon footprint, and one thing that I found is that food now become more complex than food in the past, and that is because the development of technology. I made this timeline to see what is changing throughout time in both good way and bad way, mainly focused on agriculture. 3,000 years ago, the first human finding the way to survive by learning from nature and other animals. Then agriculture unexpectedly discovered by the cavemen. Agriculture become routine for people and food diet. When agriculture become more business and then expand around the world. Now there is more demand in the market, so people starting to develop fertilizer to speed up the yield rate. Technology is further developed when people discovered oil and internal combustion. It is the period of industrial revolution. And now, there are a variety of food providing in the market that is done by high technology machine, which is harmful to our ecosystem, introduce us to climate change. Next, I will explain you briefly what will happen in our life if we still repeat this behavior. In nearly every step of food production process, farmers find the easiest way to meet consumer demand. For example, by using tractor and pesticides, all of this makes our life easier, but in the long term, pollution from tractor and chemical in our food does not only affect farmer and consumer, but the whole ecosystem, because this small starting point contributes to climate change. Climate change is making farming conditions much less stable. Drought and flood are becoming more unpredictable than ever, and it will affect the security and reliability of our food supply. Furthermore, a new generation of farmers is choosing to abandon their family business and move into the city to find new jobs. For them, moving to the city might be a solution, but it will create a completely new living condition, and it will require adapting to the new environment. If we also move farm indoor, by moving farm indoor, we can more carefully control growing conditions and improve the reliability of our food supply. If we also move farm into the city, then we dramatically reduce carbon emission caused by transporting food long distance. So then I decided to design this project, Herbivore. Herbivore is one-stop food market hub for urban people, where all ingredients and foods such as vegetables and fruit are grown and cooked here. Migrant farmers can have their own habitat and community in the city, which they can also continue their farming business and sell the product directly to consumers. Herbivore is located in Klong Toi, Bangkok, Thailand, the area that has perfect environment, accessibility, and suitable existing community. In the radius of 1 kilometer, there's no high-rise building, only 3 types of structure, which is really short. And even in the city, we don't have to concern about the sunlight condition. In the future, this area will become the new future development of Bangkok. According to the diagram, the location of Herbivore will be the part of the new line. Moreover, many public transportation are available. This is very convenient for the migrant farmer. Currently, in this area, it consists of 3 different communities. First is Bangkok main logistic, then city residence, and city biggest green space. The Herbivore will be the center that links everything together, or the new landmark. As I mentioned that, the objective of this project is to balance living conditions between rural and city. I study by the local rural people. I look at the existing community, what happened in rural area, architecture style, people lifestyle, to maintain in the city as much as possible. The result of that came out to my conceptual program diagram. This is the program that will happen in my project. So first, the resident unit. Every unit will have their own private garden, pathway that link each residence together. Rice field, of course, the main activities of the farmer is doing farming, and they will have rice field together with vegetable farm, cultural center, community area, communal kitchen, fresh market, and import-export station. I chose to design from the smallest scale, which is the resident unit. I studied the family prototype of Thai farmer that have 5 main prototypes, which are 3 generations live together, skip generation, parent and child, 1-person household, and parents without child. From left to right is when the family grow. From that idea, I sketched what space is needed in one unit according to family member and their relationship, bedroom, bathroom, common space, and private garden. I decided not to put the kitchen in any single unit because the kitchen is not just a place to cook food, but it's more like about the community activities. So I decided to separate kitchen from the unit. This is how I turn people prototype to the space. I did that with all the prototypes. Each different prototype have different way to organize the space, which means that all unit will have different size and different design. Then I turn the diagram to the proper floor plan. This is how I apply the strategy. So each unit will also have the sense of kind of rural sense of the family. Every unit will have a private garden on one side and located next to another private garden. So the neighborhood can help each other to take care of the garden. This is the overall aggregation will look like. All 5 prototypes are present according to the percentage presence. A large communal space is provided between the unit for shared activities. Each unit has 2 entrances. One is the public entrance linked to the common space in the middle, and another one is the private entrance, act like a shortcut It will link directly to the main core of the building. Resident unit is stacked into double floor. However, the second floor of the unit also have the private pathway as well. So the red color is for the second floor and the blue color is for the lower floor. Here is the perspective view from the common area in the middle of the cluster of the unit. Many activities can happen here, such as local market. Now we are moving to the bigger scale. This is just one cluster that I just talked about. It will link to other cluster like a village combined together in become a community. The cluster are connected with the great lamp, meaning that every cluster are in different level. Between the ramp is where the communal kitchen takes place. The kitchen is located in the middle between the communal space of the two villages. So this space will allow the opportunity for farmers to exchange their product and culture. The ramp from top of the building circulates down to the ground in one continuous route, with the width of the ramp is 4 meters. So it's not just a normal path, but has the potential to become the sky garden as well. Apart from that, elevators and stairs are installed at the center core of the cluster. The whole building comprises of 9 main floors and one large roof that acts as a rain gutter, transferring water to use within the building. Each different floor has different plans according to the level of privacy and programs. Aside from the residence unit, there are also a vertical farm, cultural center, and rice field. The rice fields are located within the high-rise building, and they are connecting to multiple programs. Rice field requires sunlight. On top of each rice field, there's a large opening space which allows sunlight and good ventilation. This building is not just for the farmer family, but for the city residents to explore as well. The building also acts as a museum where outsiders can understand the entire food production process from the beginning to the end. The journey ends in a large performance kitchen stage that intersect with other food production processes that occur on site. This allows people to reconnect with the food. This is the perspective view from the main communal kitchen that perform cooking. Now the performance is live. This is another way to promote the activity that might be done by the new generation of farmers. And this is the fresh market on ground that link to the road. Product and food that made in this building will be sold here to outsiders. To understand the system of the building more, I made this diagram which will show the daily life in herbivore, starting with the residents. So this is an example of the resident who live in this building. So he or she might live in this A unit. They will go to have the breakfast at communal kitchen, go to the village common area, visit the rice field, go down to the communal kitchen to perform cooking to outsider or tourists, visit vertical garden, check stock at the warehouse, craft at the cultural center, have dinner with neighborhood at the common space, back to resident unit. So this is the one life, daily life of the farmer. How about the tourist or outsider? As this building also the cultural center or the museum as well. So the outsider can arrive at this place around 10 in the morning, circulate up by using the express elevator to the top part, visit the food production and rice field and cultural center, and then go down to have the workshop, have lunch, and then buy something before they go home. And the last character is the rice or the product that we produce in this building is rice, for example, collect by the farmer at A point, transfer process to store at the rice barn, or it will go to the resident unit, or transfer to the main garden, transfer to the warehouse for export, or even go to the fresh market. When the three circulation present together, it reflects the real herbivore. Some activities are overlapping between types of characters and creating interaction between them, not just between person to person, but for people to food production as well. Remember the complex cow pad kapao flowchart I showed you at the beginning of the presentation? This is the update one. All ingredient and production happen in one building from the beginning to the end. That default dish now become the well-thought dish. To conclude, herbivore reconnects city citizens and everyone back to the origin of food production and allow farmers to continue their food production in one stop without creating more carbon footprint. Furthermore, this building is not just an architecture that performs program and solve the problem. but an instrument to shift urban people mindset toward rural people. They will pay respect to farmers as they are venerable and admirable. Thank you.
All right, let's begin the critique part of this.
I can start first.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I think the presentation very smooth, and like people who listen can follow all what you talk about, from research, design, even the experience by users. But for me, if I comment in this kind of thing, it means it's already how to say, it's like what I just noticed from your drawing is just about the drawing in architectural drawing. It's not as a real architectural drawing. Mm-hmm. It's more like a diagrams. Mm-hmm. It's no windows, no door, not have door, but the wall is not opening wall. It's kind of like that. So, but this is very minor comments. It means for me, I'm also familiar with what you talk about the food, about the processing and the site. So for the general comment on your idea concept from research to the design, I have no any comment on that. But it's only like more in detail. Like, so it's already it's good that I started to see in the details things on your presentations, and I'm sure there are many people would like to ask you more on these ideas. But for me, I felt this is very interesting and very good presentation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add on to this? Actually, the idea is quite interesting, but my problem with the project is that why you need to have the site, why you need to have a specific site, because actually at the end of your product, it doesn't really require to have that specific site. It doesn't have to be in Krong Thơ, it doesn't have to be in the area next to the river at all. Because I think if the merit of this scheme is about the new typology of,
sorry, my connection was lost. Sorry, I just came back. Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Okay,
can you repeat it, please? Sorry about that.
Sure. So my comment is that I think it should represent the new building typology instead of having the specific site, because actually when you explain in the Krong Thơ area or the area next to the river, you actually didn't use the site asset to benefit your scheme at all. And actually, I think if this problem of the food security in the city, it seems that you need to tackle not only the middle income or the high income person, you need to tackle the low income person. But it seems that your project doesn't seem to tackle to the urban poor aspect, because it seems that you tackle more on the very the wealthy people who want to have the garden, eatable garden, because from your presentation it doesn't have the scale of how much the productivity is sufficient enough to serve the community. So I just wondering how we gonna apply your concept to other scale or other area in the city which has so much potential in terms of the abandoned area and to tackle the urban poor and the people who need most. Yeah.
Okay, so first I would like to answer the first question about the idea of site. So I haven't mentioned in this project, but Herbivore is not a single building, but my kind of initial idea was to make this kind of Herbivore to be the network of building together. So it's like a system. So this building can be applied to other area as well. For example, like it can be somewhere like maybe can be expand in the Bangkok city first, and it can also grow to like countryside. But this is just the first typology. Right now it's in the kind of city, so it's kind of become a kind of sky tall building. But if it kind of expand into like countryside of Thailand, it can be something like expand in the horizontal kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, you answered the question, but it seems that the starting point of the idea, it doesn't seem to think from that typology aspect, because if you start from the typology aspect, you may need to study what are the area in the city that this can be fit in, because there are many various scale and characteristic in the city.
True.
Right. Those comments. Yep.
I actually chose Klong Toei because you might know that Klong Toei is the main logistics, so have many kind of transportation happen there. And if this building as a starting point, they might not have that much ingredient themselves that can produce by them, but this can be the kind of point that can shifting other ingredients from other place around Thailand to kind of ship here and become kind of the center, kind of food hub, something like that. So that's my initial of choosing Klong Toei. And that will link to the second question about the kind of level of people in terms of like income, something like that. So I didn't thought much about like the level of people. And as I said, the resident who live in this building is not Bangkok citizen, but the farmer who come from other provinces of Bangkok. So they will kind of have this kind of same sense of living. So I haven't talked about that much, but even the design of the, yes.
That's all right. Okay.
About the design of the room itself, I try to make the room to become the house. So the internal wall is kind of lower than the external wall. So even it kind of look like the unit in the condominium, but the resident will feel like it's a home, something like that. And the way that and from the idea.
Can I follow up, or Sherry, you want to translate first?
Maybe I translate this part first before I forget everything. 那我来给大家稍微翻译一下，因为我看到那个我们直播平台有些同学说就是有点听不懂，因为的确他们 presentation 讲的就是演讲的时候会比较快一点。然后大家不用担心，就是我们回放的时候会给大家打出来字幕的，因为现场听的话，我就是没有这个同声传译的能力。我先跟大家说一下 Kutila 就是第一位评审的一个就是算是讲一个想法吧，就是他的意思是说这是一个比较强的，就是从研究到设计，然后再去以一个就是使用者的角度来去描述这个设计的几个方面，所以这是一个比较好的一个思路，一个展示的方式。所以当你不太了解这个方案的时候，其实也可以很快的去进入到状态。但是这个里面可能会有一些问题，就是大家看它的设计的时候，更多的是一种图解的方式，就是它的建筑图纸并不是说那么精确，但这不会影响到它的这个概念的阐述，所以总体来讲，它是一个阐述的比较清楚的一个设计思路。那么第二位嘉宾的话，他在跟这个同学主要讨论的是两个点。第一个点就是说，这个项目看起来就是从它的结果其实是一个垂直城市。那它去解决的问题也是一个城市的农业的问题，它提供这样的一个居所和一个农业生产的空间给外来的农民。它是在这个 Bangkok 就是曼谷的边上的一个沿河的地区，但是它这个项目你从听下来之后就会觉得说，为什么它是一定要选这个场地？其实不一定是这样的一个方式，就是它有可能是只是去研究这样的一个新的系统，然后这个系统呢，它其实可以去运用在不同的地方，这个是嘉宾给他的一个问题。当然同学他也回答到，就是说他其实是有这样考虑的，他希望它是一个所谓的一个就是像垂直城市这样的一个概念，它是可以应用在不论是这个就是密度比较高的城市区，或者是农村的这个区域，其实都是可以去应用的。当然他选这个场地的时候呢，的确是去选择了这个就是水运比较发达的这个区块，那么很多这个所谓的农产品啊是可以方便到达的，所以在这样的一个前提下，他选了这个场地，但是并不会影响他的这个概念，就是依然是这个系统化的一个就是所谓的类型的一个设计。 那第二个问题呢，他们其实讨论的比较多的就是关于这个收入人群了，因为它这个建筑空间，大家刚刚也看到，就是更多的是一个比如说它有自己的这个居住空间，然后有一些共享的这个厨房，然后有共享的种植的一个农田，所以感觉上是给一些比较高收入人群的，但是他希望的又是说是外来的这个农民可以去使用的一个居住空间，所以他刚刚也在回答的时候解释了这个问题，就是他刚刚有放一下他们的这个就是住区的一个户型的平面图，就比如说它的一个大的这个户型里面，它其实是可以去把它再细分的，然后呢它其实并不是说是一个比较大的一个户型，只是能够提供给高收入的人群，所以关于居住人群和这个场地的选择是我们第一位嘉宾主要去问的问题。Let's go to the next one.
Sure. First, thank you for picking such an important and challenging topic. And you have covered so much from global warming, industrial farming, carbon footprint, rural to urban migration. That's such a large topic for a student project. I guess there's less of comments, more of a dialogue. I think it's a very romantic portrait of urban settlements for rural new immigrants. And as designers, we tend to idealize that, if we create a space, the new immigrants would take on it. To me, I visited, Bangkok, different parts of Thailand, and I like that spontaneity of urban living. It's messy, it's interesting, it's chaotic, but I think that's part of the charm of urban living. This is very curated, sort of, enclosed space that we're designing, let alone there's a lot of practical issues. So like, if you want to do production, are you doing hydroponics, or you will have to support soil? And then that will have, multiple implications on the structural consideration, on the architecture design considerations. So I guess it's a question that for my fellow designers, I don't have the answer. We've done some vertical farming as well. It's just a conundrum for me. I've been thinking this over a lot. As designers, are we going to provide a sort of a modularized urban solution that can really sustain urban farming, etc.? I don't have the answer. I think it's more of a question or a discussion with everyone. And this kind of mindset that we as designers create is idealize the space that can support the social requirements as well as farming and production or economy. I don't have the answer, but I just want to pose that to you, the presenter, and my fellow designers.
Yeah, I guess I'll follow up on that, and I agree with those comments. And but I'll say I'm very impressed with the work, and I think the analysis that went into it, and really, building up to, a point of view and a position, a critical position about, what we need to be doing as a society, what we need to be doing globally, what we need to be doing locally to start to try to address things that are happening at this really large systematic scale, and taking that type of thought and bringing it into a project and having concrete suggestions for how we might go about it is it's an amazing structure for your project. It's an amazing way for you to start to really grow intellectually and start to deal with these problems, on a big picture. I think the resolution of the project is excellent. I think I agree with, this. I think if we frame this project as an exploration, as a way to explore different ideas, and not as a final solution, as a work in progress in a way, I think it becomes an interesting project that allows all of us. I think everyone is probably sitting here thinking the same things, and I know my mind is, I'm sort of like off on, thinking about this aspect, and other people are thinking about different different pieces of it. And I think that's really the strength of the project in a lot of ways, especially at the student scale. It's, it's big enough to deal with big issues, but it's resolute enough to let us all really imagine, and start to think, on that structure. I mean, I think some of the technical things that you might, as you continue to explore these ideas, you might start to think about are some of the efficiencies of traditional agriculture in a way, which are, the access to sun and the access to water and rain. And how do you start to, I think I was like mentioning this, is this hydroponics, is this, but, this is sort of this building that doesn't, and there may be in there, but I would love to see a solar analysis of where the farms are versus the sun and how that changes through the days and through the seasons. How are you collecting water that, comes onto the site, onto the building, recirculating that water? What are the systems around that? So there's a whole series of sort of environmental systems, I think, that could be explored as well in this project that would just add, I think it would affect the formal resolution of the project. I think it would affect the way the project, the programmatic resolution of it. And starting to go back and sort of see what are some of the efficiencies versus what are some of the inefficiencies of the way farming happens. I think the urban to rural question that was brought up, I mean, we've seen these projects. We were, exploring ideas around this on, outside of a city in Kenya where they were thinking about, how to, what is happening with villagers that are moving to urban areas and what does that mean and how do we start to think about that? I agree that that's a complex problem that I think I see in your design a hint of this idea of this superstructure. The way you design this is sort of the superstructure that might be less prescriptive in a way. Back to Tal's point is that you might be able to sort of like let this organically grow a little bit, and that the superstructure and the water system and the transportation system, the circulation start to be a piece of it. And then how that fills in, how that superstructure fills in is much more organic, much less prescribed. So the dwellings, the farming, and in some ways, if this is really inhabited, by people that know a lot about farming, they will find the best places to grow different types of food. They will be able to, self-locate within the superstructure and find that area. And I think that would give you that sort of messy urban vitality. I think it would give you, that I was talking about, I think it would give you a more efficient system, because it's like, I think as designers, we tend to want to design the system, but sometimes maybe, the system designs itself, and so you put a structure out there and let the system start to evolve and find the best places, find the efficiencies in the structure, I think, would be interesting. And with your idea of this being replicated, I mean, ways to learn from the first project. If this was a series of projects, could the first one be a prototype that you could learn from, and the second one evolves a bit, and the third one evolves a bit more. And so the building itself starts to change and learn from, from the systems that are sort of like inhabiting. But I find this a fascinating project and really well thought out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to add anything? Okay, so I will just translate. 这里的话是有2位嘉宾在评论。那么第一位的话，张涛他其实有在说，就是这个项目大家如果从前面听的话，会看到它是从一个比较大的一个热点，就是比如说全球变暖、人口剧增，然后农田减少等等这样的一个大的热点，然后以一种非常浪漫的方式来描述，然后最终给出一个这样的一个超级结构的解决方案，就是刚刚 Wes 有提到的 superstructure。我觉得这个是一个很好的一个诠释，它是一个垂直的这样的一个超级结构。那么但是他在做这样的一个所谓的超级结构的时候，大家也有看到他更多的考虑的可能是空间本身，或者他安排了这样的一些居住共享和农田等等这样的不同的功能在这个结构里面，但是他可能没有考虑很多是关于这种实际的，比如说种植方面的问题， 像刚刚 Wes 和张涛都有提到的，就是土壤怎么来，然后水它怎么样的一个循环利用，甚至是它植物生长它是需要光的嘛，所以它是怎么样去针对这个光线的等等这些问题，就是在他去做这样的设计的时候可能没有太多的去回应。特别是刚刚 Wes 有评价他的这个项目的时候说到，就是如果这个方案更多的是从比如说通过这个阳光的一个研究，通过这个水的一个使用，怎么样一个循环系统来去做分析得到的一个形态或者一个设计也好，可能会更加的高效，或者说更加的可以就是更可以自圆其说一点。然后它中间也提到了一个比较好的概念，我觉得大家在就是自己做设计的时候可以去考虑，就是有一个叫自发性设计，或者说一个自主性设计，就是system design by itself， 就是它自己是可以去生长的。那么如果以这样的概念来做这个设计的话，Wes 就畅想说，现在你看到的屏幕上的这个所谓的超级结构是这个样子，可能它是一个试点。那么在用到其他区域的时候，也就是它第二栋楼的时候，它可能根据使用者、根据环境的不同，它会有一些新的这个添加的功能，或者甚至是形态都有可能去自由的变化和生长。那你可能作为设计师来讲，你更多的是提供一个系统、一个结构本身。那不同的使用者和这个不同的场地会决定了这个superstructure， 就是超级结构它可能长的一个方向或者它的一个呈现。那么这个可能才是这个项目最有意义或者说最有意思的地方。Okay, I think kind of summarize. Hopefully they can understand.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I really hope to have real building like this in my city. I hope you have a good developer or maybe the government would like to do these type of buildings in Bangkok.
Thank you. Yeah, she's trying to give a nice future so people can look at.
All right. So a story very well told. So our last but certainly not least, Sutanan, also from Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok. Please take it away.
So, hello, I'm Sitanan Hirachalernsai or Ploy. Today, I'm presenting you the Theater of Deaf and Blind. So, my project starts with a study on the urban research from the book The Image of the City by Kevin Lynch. So, this book argue about the possible way for each individual to image the city. Lynch mentioned that there are 5 elements: path, node, edge, district, and landmark. These 5 elements help to construct a mental map for people in the city. It is also interesting that these 5 elements can be interpreted differently by individuals. For example, expressway may be a path for driver and edge for pedestrian. However, people remember the city atmosphere, not the element. Just like how we listen to the music, we remember the melody, not the note. After reading and try to understand the book, here is my 2 syntax diagrams. Both speak about the concept from the book. So the first diagram shows like an imaginary city space by add and subtract these 5 elements. Show how elements help you construct the image of the city. So as you may notice, there are 2 types of box, the one with color and the one with not. So first, the box with color represents like a main flow. There are images linked together step by step. First, starting with just an empty space. Later, you add path, node, edge, district, and then landmark to complete the image. Then you subtract the element out one by one, starting from the path, the node, the edge, the district, and then the landmark. In the last box, even the object inside remain the same. You may image it more like a pattern than a city. Now move on to the black and white box. So each box represents a selective addition and subtraction from the main flow. So the left side is product when you're taking the image from the main flow and you add one more element to it. And on the right side is when you take the complete image and you subtract out one element. For example, in box A, it's like when you take the image with just the path and then you add the landmark to it. And now move on to the second plate, the cityscape in B flat. It is a representation of the first page as a music note. So one line of melody is the representation of one box. So first start with just an empty space, so there is no sound. Then you add part. You see two notes linked together by the line. The line in music means you keep pressing, so this makes the sound continue from one note to another. And then you add note. In the book, it's described note as strategic spot. By adding flat side to the melody, cause the player to concern that that note needs to play different from others and also make the sound different. And in line 4, you can hear silent sound and silence, so that represents as an edge. And then in line 5, you add the district. So the district here is represented in the note in different tempo. And now move on to line 6. By adding a landmark, it's like to add intro, climax, and ending to the melody. And then you're taking out the part, the note, the edge. And again, in line 10, you're taking out the district. So now the notes are mixed together, so it's hard to define the area. So lastly, taking out the landmark is like taking away the climax from the melody. Just like the note become melody when you have different key and tempo. And to make that complete as a music, you need to have intro, climax, and ending, as same as you need those 5 elements to construct a complete image of the city. So now, move on to my city critter. Taking the concept of how elements can be interpreted differently, I look into the canal. That is the common city element can found in Bangkok throughout the history. So in the past, the canal is our main part of transportation. Thai people, we travel mainly by boat. That is why we also known as the Venice of Southeast Asian. But since the transportation is changed, same as the meaning of the canal, today canal can be both edge for pedestrian and path for water transportation. So the aim of my city critter is to highlight the moment when canal changed its function from just an edge to also become a path. By using the wave of the boat as a representation when canal changed its function. And here is the design of my city critter that is activated by the wave, make the plastic bottle and the pipe to float up and down. As a result, it making drawing that notate and measure wave along the canal. And another element is the wind charm that move every time the boat pass through, so this thing make a noise. And lastly, by placing 2 periscopes side by side, allow the user to see the wave at the water level and the drawing at the same time. And here is how my critter perform on site. Okay, so all of this leads me to the manifesto for my last phase. So my proposal for the last phase is a theater of deaf and blind, which will locate on the same canal as my crater. The Mahana Canal located in Rattanakosin Islands is also considered as Bangkok Old Town, full with lots of historic landmarks. The reason why Thai people mention it as Rattanakosin Island is because this district is surrounded by river. You can see lot of small canals. As I have mentioned before, back then Thai people will travel by boat. So today this district still keep this canal which allow the public boat to run through. The boat service is beneficial for both local people to travel around the area and also become a famous activity for the tourists who want to observe Bangkok. And before I talk you into my design, because my proposal for the last phase is a theater, here is the song that we'll use to perform as a rehearsal in the theater. Basically, the melody of this song is extract from the performance of the city critter on that day. The song captures the movement when the boat passed through the canal. So let's relax a bit and see what it sounds like. Okay, so let's get back to design. Again, it is a theater of deaf and blind. So one cannot see and one cannot hear, but both of them can feel the movement. So I want to design a theater that creates movement, make the theater perform together with its performance, and also reveal what happened on the site. So throughout the design development process, I borrow the language from my city critter. The movement of the pipe that both up and down, or its movement when it pull the rope to create sound or rhythm. And here is the design of my theater. So people can access basically from the bridge to the seating unit, and the stage is located lower on the other side of the canal. You can see from the elevation that I kept two sides under the bridge open so the boat can able to still circulate. So let me talk you through each part of this theater. First, it's like an entrance area. So the rail structure here move up and down by the changing wave. So every time the boat pass by, user can feel the stronger movement. Next is the hallway. Along the way are installation of Thai traditional instrument called angklung made from bamboo that both wind and user can push to create sound. And next, the hallway will lead you to the seating unit that allow the user to experience the performance. So the movement of one unit is activated by the first performance on the stage and second by the canal wave. So inside this theater, user become part of the performance. The section show you the layer that happening on site. And here is the atmospheric drawing, show the view from the beach into the theaters. And also more zoom into the seating area. And lastly, I made you guys a short film showing the user experience in the deaf and blind perspective. So it is a theater of deaf and blind, but we can also make ourselves become deaf or blind too. So actually it's for everyone. It is a city theater that allows people to experience the performance, which in this case is the theater itself. You may experience it as you enter, but also even you are a driver on the road or people walking on the street, you're able to see this theater moving and perform on site. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah.
Have you seen a Blue Man Group's performance? Your pipe installation reminds me of their performance. Yeah.
Sorry, doesn't know that one. I can search on it.
Anyway, it's a very interesting project. A smaller scale, but it's just so playful. You know, puts in the vibrant urban life so well. I really like the color choices. Reminds me of Miyazaki's animation. It's just so compelling. Yeah, thank you for a fun project.
I agree. I mean, I like the fact that it starts to translate, natural system, and you're thinking about the natural systems, the wind, the water, and yet the expression of it is very compelling and just really, the type of project that you can imagine that people would seek out. And, it might be one of these types of projects that you might take a step back in some ways and say, like, here's why it's in this location. It might be another way to explore this, to say it's here because because of something historical, or there's a need to draw people into this area, or, there might be a way to sort of couch this in an understanding of the context that would add another layer to it. But for me, it's fascinating in and of itself. I don't know that it needs that, but to really, it stands alone as a really thoughtful, imaginative, approach to, really thinking about natural systems in an urban area. And I think it's fascinating in that way. It's playful, and I think those are all positive things about the project. So really nice work.
Yeah, I really like the thinking of, using the natural forces, how nuanced, how mild it is, the current of the river is driving really the music, is writing the music, and it's not predictive. Anytime, any motion that's happening in the environment will reflect it. I think that kind of thinking is really, really critical for the students, instead of following any formula or trying to intervene, as a designer to insert an object in the public space. This is something that, we're being clever, we're being playful, we're, inject a small seed of ideas and then let it happen. And I really like that kind of, thinking. It's more important than the design itself.
Thank you.
I would love to see. Oh,
yeah.
Maybe.
You first. Please.
Yeah, I really love it, and very nice, and I do agree with all the to comments. And actually, when I see your project, it's more like I thought about the adaptive facade, which is really very popular, that many architects, many designers apply those kind of adaptive facade on their building, but they use the mechanical systems. For your project, your proposal is also adaptive facade, but you use the natural system to make it become adaptive facade following the movement. And I really think that this kind of thinking method, it could be applied to like nowadays architect or designer who try to do very fancy adaptive facade on their building with really not sustainable, but they say that thing is sustainable, but actually in the same time they use a lot of energy in terms of the moving these kind of mechanical systems. So this is very one new approach that like we think back to the nature, how the nature become the make the building become adaptive facade. This is very interesting. And one thing that I really notice is about when we see your project just from the image, just from the drawing or image, we cannot get involved on your designs until today's presentation that is made all the drawing, image, and movie is make all the thing from your concept idea is become very comprehensive thinking. And it's almost same as like when we go to visit the buildings. It's like if I only see the building from drawing or image or photos, maybe I do appreciate it, but I'm not sure if that the real perspective is that good. But when we go to see the real building, then we can start to perceive the space. We can know the space inside, and we can know the idea of the like. Can imagine whatever when we stay there. So same with today, like okay, everyone listen what you are talking, what you are presenting, and it's make all the thing that can very comprehensive thinking and on your design proposals and very nice projects. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just want to add on. I think it's very inspiring, and I like your story and the narrative. And I think one thing that we probably need to think further of from this inspiration, what is the purpose of this architecture or typology? What we can make use of that. I think you show the possibilities in construct this architecture or space by using the invisible forces like a wind and water and wave, and then you choose to use that material or ingredient to construct the theater. And I'm not sure whether is it the purpose that you want to change the edge of the canal to become the path and gathering space. I think this is probably your purpose of this architecture, right? And I would like to see of how we can use this ingredient and this kind of thinking to develop something else along the canal or in other space or in other part of the cities. Because I think at the end of I think our goal is how we're gonna create this ingredient creatively to serve something, to serve something for the urban developer. Probably this is something that we can think about it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think out of everything that's talked about, I really find this an extremely romantic interpretation of what you're trying to do. And out of everything that's talked about, I think I like the way that you drew it the best. All of your drawings is all, like aside from all the schemes, the most colorful drawings they can depict for a very special group. And also about like all your drawings are focused on the people. You didn't put like a bird's eye view from far beyond to address whatever, but it's always about how people are seeing your building. Even in this one that I think probably best, represents what you're trying to do. It's about how people sees it. It's not really even about how people sees your design, your building. It's about people sees the nature, which is the essence of the project, which I find is extremely cool.
Thank you.
Okay, 那我来简单翻译一下。Okay, I'll just summarize what you guys just talked about. 大家可能如果懂一些英文的话，应该听到就是里面有很多正面的词，什么 fascinating 就是很棒，然后inspiration， 然后很棒的 drawing， 还有比较具有启发性等等。所以大家评委呢对这个方案的评价总体来讲是非常高的。 那么最早的话，涛就类比了说，这个项目有点让他想到了，就是美国这边有一个歌剧，就是那种互动性非常强，叫Blue Man， 就是我不知道中文怎么翻译，可能蓝色怪人之类的吧。就是那个里面的话，他们会有一些这种就是这种instrument， 就是或者说 installation 这种装置，然后它是跟音乐可以有一些互动关系的，所以他就有点类比这两个东西。那总体来讲，他觉得这是一个比较有趣的项目，就是它其实是用这种自然的力量，然后以建筑的方式来模拟，然后以这种可以互动和感知的形式，让你可以去比如说即使你看不见或者听不到的话，你也可以摸或者感知到这个自然的变化。这是一个非常小的入手点，但是它完成的非常的棒。那 Wes 的话在这里有提到说，他是在去用建筑的方式来翻译这个自然的系统。那他通过将风还有水这些以自然的模式就是表达出来，那么人可以去更好的感受，然后也激发人的一个好奇心。就是虽然你不用去解释说为什么这个项目在这个场地，但是它自己其实是可以自我支撑或者自我成立的。然后人们可以来到这里来有一个非常好的一个公共空间的一个感受。那么涛刚刚的那个有补充到说这是一个比较小的想法，但是当你抓到这个idea 的时候，就是你可以用一个比较好的故事来把它呈现出来。那 Kutida 也讲到说它有一个类比啊，就是你看到现在有很多这个外面的一些建筑，它的这个立面是那种可以去适应或者根据这个气候啊等等的一些改变来调整的这样的立面设计。但是这些设计它其实并不是那么的可持续性，它有可能是用机械系统或者是电力系统的。而这个同学的设计呢，它更多的是在用自然的这个能量，比如说水波的运动来影响这个建筑的一个改变。那么它其实更多的是在考虑这个绿色可持续性的一个这种表皮系统。所以这是一个比较巨大的一个改进或者说一个特点。那还有一点就是因为这个项目它是针对的就是听不到或者看不到的人，所以他在这个整个演讲的过程中，其实他的表现方式也是非常全面的。所以大家如果刚刚有 follow 我们整场下来的话，也会看到就是他用了一些图纸，然后有用了这个视频，然后也用了音乐，然后也用了一些现场的一种画面来综合的去传述他的一个设计理念。所以这是一种比较全面的表达方式，当然也跟他的这个设计比较相关了。所以你可以以这样的就是多方面的信息来去预想说你人在这个空间里面大概是一个什么样的感受。那么Young Sampu 呢，他也说就是这个故事它是非常有意思的，或者说这个整个的逻辑线是非常清楚的。但是呢有一点可以去讨论，就是说我们在这样的一个场地，这个应该叫运河的这个空间的这个节点做这样的一个项目到底是为了什么？是为了去服务这个城市，还是说将来它可以用在更多的这个类似的场地？所以大家可以再去考虑一下说在更大的一个尺度上，这个方案本身对城市或者说对居民有没有什么样更积极的作用？这个只是一个就是建议方面的问题。那子涵最后有聊到说他觉得这些图纸本身其实更多的是在关注人的感受，因为这个项目它本身开始的点非常小，那它并不是说有很多宏大的这个鸟瞰或者是上帝视角，而是把你带到了这个项目之中，你可以真的作为一个体验者来感受。所以这个是我们从前面几个项目中就是觉得这个项目更有特点的地方，就是你可以去真正的关注到人本身。OK，I think that's what I got from the discussion. Zihan, do you want to like summarize? Like, or
I think we have a Q&A session, right?
Yes.
To follow up with this. Again, thank you very much, Sitan. That's very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry, I can't see all the questions. I think we prepared a short Q&A.
Yes, we probably can have a very short Q&A, but before that, you guys can do a group discussion, and I can pull out all the questions for you.
Okay. Well, I guess then I'll try to ask the first question, I guess. Throughout this, our topic is urbanism, and throughout all the projects, they each represent a kind of, in some cases, drastic approaches to their individual urban fabric. Some imposes on some level a lot of monumentality. Some of them imposes a lot of kind of a big authority over the entire urban fabric. And some of them, like the last one, is a little interaction with a very small moment that's in a very crucial part of a city's heritage. I guess I want to ask you guys, after seeing all four, what are your feelings about some of these things, like the monumentality that goes into it, the temporality that goes into some of it, and the, you know, and the contrast between them?
I like how diverse, you know, we've seen this morning. I really would like to give a round of applause to everyone, every team, and it's so diverse. Everyone approached, you know, urban challenges from different directions. You know, we've seen architecture, we've seen urban design, we've seen landscape architecture, even, you know, art installation, interactive, you know, installation. I really enjoy the breadth of all the experimentations. Looking back, probably, you know, I felt we might be a little bit too critical on when cheese, you know, schemed out was really complex at a large scale, at the biggest scale, and it was most challenging to present everything to depth within 15 minutes. But I would say, you know, equally, every team has done an amazing job. Then, you know, I really, whenever I see, you know, really promising, you know, impressive student work, I feel like, you know, both very hopeful for profession at the same time, like there's like a pressing urge for practitioners to improve ourselves, because the students are just getting better and better every day. They're just so amazing, full of great ideas, execute, you know, design, representation in such a sophisticated way. So yeah, I'm impressed, and yeah, great work to all teams, all four teams.
Right, thank you.
I think one of the things, the big picture, is what these projects show us is that urbanism itself is very complex, that it ranges across scales. I think we've seen that it's also it's not universal in the same way that other things might be, that it's very tied to place, it's very tied to the political, economic, social, cultural, you know, ecological conditions that it happens. And so, you know, the project in Bangkok will be different than the project in Chicago. There's just a whole set of conditions that really make the expression of these projects, you know, very different. And even within, you know, the same country, New York, you know, sort of lower Manhattan and, you know, outer neighborhood Chicago are very different places. And the expression, the scale, the order of intervention on these projects is really wide and varied. And it's because I think what's really, you can commend the students on with this work is that they didn't all look the same, that they all came from the place, they came from an analysis, they came from an understanding of the conditions of the project itself, and yet they were all ambitious in a way that was somewhat universal. So, I mean, I think we saw, you know, ways to address global problems. We saw ways to address, you know, sort of structural tectonic problems that I think, you know, relate across the board. And yet the expression is very focused, is very specific to the conditions. And I think that's what, you know, for me, that's very encouraging. I mean, had we seen four projects that all looked the same and all sort of had the same type of, you know, some big green park along the riverfront, and it was just this big sort of whitewash, sort of generic project, I think I would have come away from this feeling like there wasn't enough, but I didn't see that at all. And I'll echo the sentiments. I was very impressed with the work, and I think it's been a fun couple of hours, honestly, to get to see what everyone's thinking about. And I've learned a lot myself just watching this work. So thank you.
I think I'm glad to see the various projects today from the new generation, which show a lot of possibilities. But one thing I think I would like to emphasize, and I have seen the result of this conversation, is about when we're doing about the urban context or the urban project, every scale is matter. And sometimes some of the project think from the very small scale, but at the end it needs to create an impact to the bigger context at the same time. So I think to be able to create a project that really fit into the context or to the urban area, I think we need to combine in all the scale and think of what is the impact, whether it's from the small intervention or from the bigger intervention. Every scale is matter, and we need to look at everything combined as a one ecology, I think, to have the successful outcome, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, it's very impressive for today's discussion and to see the 4 students group work. And but for urbanisms, actually, when we talk about urbanisms, firstly, I'm sure people will think about like very big image, huge scales. But for today, as everyone also mentioned, that with these kind of diversities of these four students or 5 students doing this work, it makes us more started to think about actually urbanism is not just a huge one. It actually can start from very small one, starting from a book, from like a rice, or from like a courtyard or whatever. And then from that, it can be expanded more to be more bigger scale, big impact. So this, I think it will be made some urban designers started to realize about when they started to design the urban, which is people may started from big image from the cities, but why not we just go in the deep of that area and to see what actually the small scale can impact to the big scales, which is today discussion from 5 students make this happen. And one thing that I feel is very important for all students in this generation is about how you gonna transform your research to your design, which is everyone can do the research, everyone can do the designs, but how you connect these 2 parts together. That I actually we can see some of works today that can connect it very well. It's become just one story that we cannot separate. This is a research or it's a design, because it should go together in one. So this is, I think, is very important for this stage, for this century. Actually, this is how you make your designs to have the reason by using the research, or how you make the research become a concept in your designs. It should have a same balance. Then you will have a very good outcome and reasonable, kind of like that. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Sherry, do you want to read some of the questions you got?
Yeah, I probably got 2 questions here. I think the first one is about critical thinking and practical design, because you see, for example, the one from UPenn is more like a practical design, and from the Bangkok design, those two projects are more like coming from a critical thinking and going to a idea or a big concept, then comes to a project. So what do you guys think of the balance of teaching in universities, no matter which university? Just tell what your thinking is, like the balance of critical thinking and practical design in the teaching.
For me, it should go together, for sure. That you cannot really too conceptual, very critical, but then finally your building is or your space is cannot use. So, but in the same time, when you do the more practice way, you may lack of the inspiration or how to more like you will. Because when you have the rules to control everything, it will make your thinking become a frame. So how we use this practical thinking to break out the rules for the student to find the innovative thinking in their ways. So this is these two things is same. This should be go together. It's same with research and design. Like how we use the academic research to do using in the design practice. So we cannot too up like critical or too conceptual, but finally the outcome is cannot be realized, or it doesn't make sense. So I think both things should go in the same way. Yeah.
To me, I think scale matters here. For smaller scale, there's more freedom to experiment. For larger scale, the larger scale, the more complex urban environment, I think we rely more and more on analytical processes, and a lot of these decisions or even radical changes need to be supported by evidence. So I think to me, of course, educational focus on both extremes are really, really important. Students need to be encouraged to explore both, radical ideas at the same time. Don't forget about, practicality, being pragmatic. But for larger scale, that's why I mentioned that, the Chicago project again, it becomes more and more rational. So you have to argue with evidence, with thorough analysis. But for smaller scale, I think there's more opportunity for experimentation or playfulness. But again, all students, all design professionals need to be equipped with those two sets of skill sets. We're designers after all. We need to be innovative, otherwise we're technicians. But at the same time, we're not fine artists. We're not just portraying like abstract images or expressions. We're delivering a product to the public, let alone the clients, right? So I think everyone will get it. Once you enter the professional world, you will be challenges from different directions. Everyone will attack you. The client might say, you're not innovative or fun, interesting enough. The other side, people might say, oh, no, this is not practical. I can't take the risk. You're not liable for that. But as a client, I'll be liable for that. So I think that the world, the reality will press, the students eventually. So I guess, both ends, from both ends. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to me, I think everyone aware of that practicality, and it's very important. And we shouldn't let that practicality or constraint become the driven forces in driven the project. I think the purpose and the goal in creating the better outcome should be the driving force. So I think if we can balance it and use it, using the inspiration, using the critical thinking as the goal in driving project, I think would be the main engine and should be the outcome that we are looking for. I think practicality and constraint should be the guideline to make sure that we at the end we can realize that, but we shouldn't let them be the main constraint and limit our possibilities.
Yeah, I think I'd echo what's been said. I think they're both important. I mean, I think from a conceptual standpoint, I think it's important to, oftentimes in practice, we are framing the conversation and framing the questions for the client, for the community, for the end users. And so being able to really connect back to bigger pictures and understand and listen and really empathize in a way with what's happening in a situation in the context and be able to frame the questions in the right way is very important. And that sort of goes to the conceptual level and tying it into other issues. And I think that it's important, I think, in school to start to really practice that capability and try to really figure out how do we connect across scales, but also across conceptual scales between, issues that are important to people, issues that are important to communities, and then what does that mean in a finished design? And I think the practicality of, the expression of the design or the plan, I think is important as well. But I think for a student, it's more important that you go through the process of thinking it rather than coming up with the right answer. Yes, does it need to stand up? If it's a building, does it need to work and manage water? If it's a landscape, yes, it needs to do all those things. But I think it's more the process than the final outcome. So as a student, I wouldn't get too hung up on the fact that, if you have a technocrat in the jury and they say, no, this actually doesn't work exactly that way. I think what you want to show is your process of thinking through it, and that, that you are able to think in that sort of detailed and conceptual way and not worry too much about, that the answer is exactly right at this point. I mean, that will come with experience and through practice and through collaboration with other experts. I mean, it's a very collaborative field. You have structural engineers for this, you have landscape architects for that, you have, MEP engineers for this, civil engineers. So, I mean, it's a collaborative building process, and you won't be experts in all of it. It's not the old model of the master architect that just has all the knowledge and, everyone else is just there to build. So.
So Sherry, is there one more that you want to share, or?
I think we basically covered everything here. So okay. You can go to the conclusion for this event. Hey, Zihan, I think you're mute. You're on mute.
My bad. Okay. I think I just muted myself when I started talking. So we have two sessions that are following right after this. So one